This is how to win every game with the English opening. The English starts after the rare c4 on move 1, and because this first move is played 2% of the time under 1400, almost none of your opponents are going to be prepared against the English. And the most common move here is to go e5, where our plan is to go g3 to fianchetto the bishop, and so after they go knight f6 preparing to push d5, we go bishop g2, covering the d5 square even more. And after they develop their dark squared bishop, getting ready to castle their king, our knight is always going behind the c-pawn that we pushed on move 1, and after they castle, our game plan to develop the rest of our pieces are going to be very simple, because with our bishop and knight covering the middle light squares, we are going to go e3 and pawn to d4, having a nice dark squared central presence. And when they go c6 trying to fight for the center, now we can go d4, and with their bishop in danger, it's most common for them to take in the center and then reroute it to b4 where it pins our knight to the king. And before we start our very easy middle game plan, we are going knight e2, supporting the knight and getting ready to castle. And after they do push d5, one of the main ideas in the English is that you want this bishop to be as strong as possible across the board. So a good rule of thumb is that whenever you can capture these pawns along this light squared bishop's diagonal, it is most likely a good idea to do so just to weaken up this diagonal. So after we castle our king and the most common knight trade here, when their bishop goes back to d6, and now we can start our very straightforward middle game plan, and it all revolves around making this bishop as strong as possible, seeing across the board. So I want you to think to yourself, how can we make these pawns weaker so that our bishop becomes stronger? And with that in mind, I know you see that the plan of pushing our a4 pawn becomes apparent, where here we are simply going to be pushing our a pawn all the way up, weakening up this pawn structure that they have, even supported with the c pawn pushes and d pawn pushes. Our rook can come to b1, putting even more pressure on their pawns. Our dark squared bishop can either challenge theirs on f4, or you can put it on e3 where it supports the center and have an easier time pushing your c pawn up the board.